Welcome to Firm Excellence module number 11. Now this week, I'd like to remind you to refer back to your thought binder and to make sure that as we go through this super intensive review of all of the work we've done so far in Firm Excellence, that you're taking the time to capture your thoughts, your ideas, and as we take that look back at all of the learning that we've been doing together, you're able to pinpoint all of the tools, strategies, techniques, and systems that are going to help you, your firm, and your people from the toolbox of the program. And remember, the other important part, it's not just knowing what the techniques are, it's finding your own personal skill and ability at unlocking the techniques that work for you. One of the critical things that you absolutely have to get right whenever you're deciding to start learning, whether that's reading, listening to a webinar, etc., is to switch on your brain into that learning state of mind. Being able to get yourself focused and ready to learn is a critical ingredient. It's also important so that you're ready to remember one of the biggest questions from Firm Excellence so far. That question is this: your why factor. You'll remember this from the first module. I mean, tell me, why do customers buy from you? In fact, why do you work in your firm? And why should you still, of course, even be in business? And once you know the answers to these fantastic questions, you'll immediately know that there's loads of things you're going to need to do, but the critical thing above all else is to guarantee to you, your people, and your clients that you are taking the time to apply and do all of the learnings. You see, if you know why your customers are buying from you, and you know why your people work for you, and you know your own goals and ambitions, and you almost, if you like, have the recipe, it almost makes complete sense to do them or do the things that you need to do every single day. Understanding this simple principle is a fundamental point throughout the whole of Firm Excellence. Firm Excellence is designed so that you can apply the things you learn. You can transform things. You've got to do this every single day. Do this in your meetings. Use ACT to code actions and changes you want to make in your firm. Use it in your own daily scheduling, in your own daily actions. And as you look at your activities that have come out of meetings, out of conferences you've attended, make sure you're ready to apply it. All of these things will mean you'll be a better role model. You'll be a better person. And you're going to be much more likely to have the team that you deserve, and of course the team that you want. Firm Excellence is an incredible journey. We're going to take a look today, and you're going to see how much we've been through together. And for many of you out there on the call, there are going to be parts of this that are a completely new road layout that's going to make you see things differently, hear things differently, and feel differently. Yet the principles that we've been talking about now for some time are really consistent. Consistency comes from things done well over time. It is the only thing that starts momentum. Taking your time to make sure you're applying these principles is what is going to help you get the absolute most out of your firm, out of your business, and of course, out of your life. As we look back and we take a look at all of the strategies and techniques, just keep asking yourself the same three things. What can I apply? What can I change? And what can I still, of course, transform and teach? Understanding this for you, for your business, as per page 2 in your thought book, and your customers, will have a radical effect on how you get the most out of every moment that you've had on the program to date. First though, let's go back to page 6 in your thought finder. You see, we took some time right back at the start to really understand and address the power of our language. If you remember, we looked at some really difficult sentences, and we identified how words have an impact on our brain. In fact, you'll remember now I mention it, that one of the things that we have to get our head round in business in the century that we're in is that people buy on a feelings filter. That's right. So if somebody's buying into something, or buying into you, or a briefing, or a communication, or even a service, it's usually the final filter is a feelings-based filter. With this in mind, our words have become more powerful than ever before. The words you choose to use in your communications to your customers, to your family, to your colleagues in your team, and your clients have a direct impact on how they feel about you, the service that you have, the service that you provide, of course, and in fact, their overall impression about your firm. Throughout Firm Excellence, we have constantly referred to the power of our words. Ask yourself, what are the words that you keep using that you need to simply eliminate, get rid of, delete, stop saying? A watered down standard of language almost always dilutes the quality of your communication and most definitely the feeling that you leave behind. The power of our words is important because here's a fact. With more and more millennials entering into their first jobs or growing within companies, the problems we once faced, we cannot solve them with the same thinking we had when we created them. Millennials, for example, are not interested in the things that got us here. They're only interested in how to be successful in this moment in time. So the question I ask for you is, are you applying all of these learnings from the program so far? Have you taken your language and added it to the work we did on Blockbuster networking? For example, did you stop and think about how you could introduce yourself when you meet new people? Did you think about the one-liner that makes you stand out from the rest? Did you think about the best way to engage with somebody and connect with them to guarantee that they remember you and hear you? Have you taken the time to put your brain through the right level of workout to make sure that you are really focused on the power that you hold within yourself? Working out your brain is vital with new ideas and new techniques. Forcing yourself, like going to the gym, to do this on a daily basis is simply not just important, it's in fact vital in business. When you see the world around you completely differently, and you start to see what we like to call at RLC the bigger picture. Now, let me be clear, not the bigger picture in the way you've heard it before, the bigger picture of what you're actually possible or what you're actually capable of in your life and in your future. When you start to actually see that, the real big picture, it opens up a whole other view. about what might be possible for you, not just in your lifetime, also your impact on the world. You see, already I'm pointing you towards one of the biggest headline acts in the power of firm excellence. And when we look at language, do you know your story well enough so if you're connecting with somebody, you're able to tell them in 30 seconds what your firm is about? Do you know how to introduce the parts of your strategic vision, your business, and your customers' impression of you, and what they think and what they feel? Do you know how to do that? Have you put language at the top of your list in the way you lead people, coach people, and connect and communicate on a day-to-day basis? If you have, you like me will know that making people feel good, feel safe, feel trusted, and feel as though you're in total control, we look after your clients, giving them the best service you possibly can, will be a direct output of your language improvement. Utilizing and learning your techniques, the things that I like to say you actually want to do. There are some techniques you'll have to work on as a result of firm excellence that maybe are a little bit more painful than others. And there are those that you're going to look forward to working on that are going to fill you with joy, and you're going to go, yep, I'm really up for this, and I can't wait to get started. The secret, as we've said already, to all of these things is to practice these techniques and tools on a daily basis. Put them into play in the situations you find yourself in. Teach somebody else the importance of the lessons that you've learned. This will give you a really good head start in the rest of 2017. You see, you might find that when you first apply them, it takes a bit more work, or you're a bit clumsy. The truth is, anything new takes time. We want to invite you to have a mindset of applying yourself till you master something. And only when you've mastered it, and someone says to you, how did you do that? Could you please show me? That is the time when you can safely say you've taken a new learning from being brand new to being something you now do automatically and at a subconscious level. Throughout the program, there are amazing techniques that I would consider to be game changers. One of those exact game changers we shared with you quite early in the process. As soon as I say the word, you're going to immediately remember, of course, what it is I'm talking about. One of my favorite modules during the firm excellence process is the Mind Changers module. When we shared with you various techniques from a mind changer perspective, ranging from gold cards, fast forward or future forward, really thinking in the future of how your world is going to be. The reason why we showed you that is to open up your brain to the possibilities that are ahead of you in your life. What mind changers do is they knit together the neurological pathways in your brain, forming new patterns, which in turn become habits and eventually become a firm belief in the heart of your mind and in the heart of your life. It always amazes me when people take mind changes seriously and they literally apply them every single day as a tool to get themselves set. How many people call us and say, Dave, or the RLC team, they get in touch and say, you're not going to believe it. Those mind changes have actually come true. Focusing yourself daily is a vital thing to do. You may remember us talking to you about the reticular activation system, that small filter that's on the bottom of the stem of your brain, that's receiving over 2 million bits of information per second. That point of focus that one change we can all make every day, rather than thinking about all the things you've not done yet, focusing in on all the things you want to have in your life and in your business. Focusing in on not just what you want to have, but what you can actually be that day. That's so important. Using your RAS is a super technique. And I'd like to remind you that the time to do this in the simplest of formats is to take that toothbrush moment in the morning whilst you're doing your teeth and load up your RAS with those simple things that make you ready for the day ahead. Also, you can do the same thing at night. Take the time to program your brain before you rest for the evening and make sure that you filed your day away as useful and ask this critical question: was I at the very least better than yesterday? If you're like me, most of us will know learning takes place on a daily basis. And that's why I want to remind you about the format process. I told you a story about an English-speaking psychoeducationalist who was working in France with some children. And she learned from years of work that there were some children who like to ask the question why, some who like to ask the question what, some who like to ask the question how, and many who would consider what if. If you just take these 4 words, why, what, how, and what if, from Firm Excellence, and apply that to every communication you ever make, whether that's in a conversation, whether that's in a one-to-one, whether that's in a client meeting, whether that's at the heart of a proposal that you write, I almost guarantee to you, you will engage people in a way you will never have realized. They will engage with you in turn. Clients will understand you. Colleagues will make sense of the things that you're asking of them. And almost everything that you do will be clearer, more succinct, and you'll be surprised at how many people take action as a result of your communication. The format model works beautifully in a chronological order, and I encourage you to use it in the way it was designed. Now, for a moment, let's talk about language one more time. If you haven't got this message so far, and as I smile as I tell you this, language is a critical ingredient to the power of our success. Do remember the circle of influence. And the techniques in this diagram and from the module where we covered this, I'd like to remind you that there are 3 things that bring the circle of influence to life really quickly. Number 1, connect first with people you meet. Number 2, listen like your life depends on it. Number 3, always build rapport first. When you do those 3 things and you use some of the tools and techniques from inside the circle of influence, they will always come to your aid and add to the experience, giving you more impact and giving you more influence in the way that you are with your customers, colleagues, and people in your life. Now, I want to ask you a question for a moment. I mean, a really tough question. Do you know how to grow your firm yet? Are you doing the things that it requires? Are you all aligned? Do you have a clear definition of your vision, of your values, of the behaviors you want to see in your firm? And have you set your target for the actual fiscal growth targets for 2017 yet, or your next oncoming financial year end? If you're not clear and you haven't taken the time, whether using format, positive language, or influencing tools, have you taken the time to make this really clear for your people? The clearer you are is the only way to be clearer with your people. You see, I want us to pause for a moment because in a second we're going to take a slight gear change. Let's take a look at a new phrase, something I've been thinking about just recently. And as we begin to look at one of my favorite words, the word outcome. I'd like you to write it down really quickly. Write down the word outcome. Put in front of the word outcome the word ambition. Now let's put those two words together. An ambition, outcome. You could even write outcome ambition if you like. My personal preference is outcome ambition. If you look at year 1 from now, year 3 from now, year 5 from now, and year 7 from now, what is the ambition you actually have for your firm? And is the ambition, the outcome ambition, big enough to almost make you take the steps required to get there? What I know about big, audacious, scary goals is that when the goal is big enough and the ambition is brave enough, it makes the decisions for you on a day-to-day basis that force you to change, adjust, adapt, and get to be at your absolute best. You see, when you think about these outcome ambitions, and you then apply one of the mind changes from earlier, or even setting some goals, which I have to tell you, I find this joy in setting really well-formed ambition goals written in the past tense. It's then and only then you can really challenge yourself around how effective you're being, how online you are with your plan, and how likely you are to get near your goals. I want to pause for a moment. This first part today, this first 21 minutes or so, is really like a chunky starter in a restaurant. As we look back, have you taken the time to write your goals for 2017? Do you have a set of goal cards or a small notebook on your office desk or in your briefcase that you look to and refer to? Make sure you diarize the time to get that done by the end of this module. Taking the time to set the right amount of goals across your life and in the business will always transform your future. Now, it's time to change lanes. Let's talk about leadership for a moment. And as always with leadership, we have to start literally right there at the beginning. Leadership is something that is always challenging. Leadership is something that's been written about for centuries. At RLC, we are huge disagreeers with traditional thinking within leadership because the generations growing up today do not come from the world that we all came from. Ask yourself this question. Would you get a Windows machine fresh from the shop today and load Windows 98 on it? Or if you're a Mac user, would you load up an old operating system? I probably expect you wouldn't. When we did the ICANN module, we made it really clear that influence starts by influencing yourself. Many people say this, and yet they fail to tell you what it actually means. Influencing yourself is understanding how you are wired. It's understanding how you're wired when you're at your best. It's understanding how you're wired when you're at your worst. It's learning to become more self-aware. It's understanding that every day, in every situation, there are always choices you can make that are for the better or even for the worse. Knowing how to grab a hold of and how to really harness your own potential is the secret to influence. When it comes to influencing yourself, knowing what your state control is like, how do you manage your mindset on a day-to-day basis is a personal thing. Understanding your self-management ability on how good you are at looking after both yourself and others is a critical ingredient as a leader. If you're at your worst, knowing how to adjust yourself to interact with people is a vital skill to develop over time. It all starts from the same basis. And that basis, as a leader, you have to get ready to go first. You'll remember we spoke about the tale of the triangles and the critical lesson from one of the triangles, which was all about learning to delete the T. If there are things to this day you still think you can't do or are unable to begin, you have a decision to make as a leader. Going first, it means you have to learn. Going first, it means you have to find a way. And of course, unless you delete the T, you shouldn't be surprised when others are reluctant to follow you. We talked about defining yourself and role modeling the behavior you want from others. We'll come back to that in the Leadership Daily Principles just a little bit later. You'll also remember that at RLC we focus on attitude by building beliefs. Beliefs is something that is fundamental to the world that you live in today. If you let others tell you what your beliefs are, you should never be surprised if you're low on confidence. If you let the environment you're in determine how good you feel or what others say about you, you should never be surprised if you're low on confidence. Beliefs that you hold about your own latent human potential are simply down to you. Deciding now to be someone who believes in themselves is a deleting the T moment. It's deciding it's time to start. The first step in doing something like this is to write down all of the beliefs you actually hold about yourself. I remember walking with Kevin in Los Angeles last May, and we were talking about this. And we explored all of the ways you would list beliefs as a positive thing in your life. I remember the surprise on his face when I said to him, Kevin, it's really easy. All you do is first decide and then write them down. Using your beliefs to build your self-esteem, to build your confidence, to give you more self-respect and awareness will help you with our success formula. You see, when you decide what level you're at, it's then and only then can you get the most out of our success formula. Now, many of you will remember that success is based on a really simple idea. Many of us will go into similar situations most of the time. In your life today, you could probably list all of the different situations, either in business or in your personal life, that you most likely enter into. The secret to success is to have an increased list of choices that allow you to be more dynamic, more effective, and have more influence and more impact in each of the situations that you're in. Whether that's a colleague engagement, whether that's a client engagement, whether that's something you're attempting to do, whatever the reason is, having more choices means you can always have your outcome in mind. One of the critical things in this formula is learning to recognize and delete interference. Sometimes interference can be negative people in your life. Sometimes you can be the interference to someone else. It's recognizing and knowing how to use the formula so that whatever situations you find yourself in, you can develop more choices and, more importantly, always be focused on your outcome, deleting your interference to make sure you get closer to your goal. Over time, you'll learn different things. I was working with a sales agent who decided that when he knew he'd lost the sale, he had nothing to lose, the customer wasn't buying, he would try new things. Forgive my use of the word try. He literally would do it because he knew the sale was gone, the customer was nearly finished, they weren't buying today, so he thought, what the heck, let's see if this works. He told me that 2 out of 10 sales that were lost would suddenly become customers. He did something that turned around the situation, all because he was brave enough to develop a new choice, followed by a new action, therefore getting a new result. The other question we have for you in Firm Excellence this week, how are you getting on at being the very best version of you? I mean, Are you the star in your own life? Many of us will want to put others first, and that's perfectly okay. In order to do that, though, you still need to be the best version of yourself. I'd like you as a homework task to take this star and notice there are 5 points. 5 points on the star. Choose 5 words that you want to have to define you. In fact, 5 words you'd almost build your personal brand on as a leader, as a business person, colleague, and family member. Here are a couple you might want to choose. Strong, loving, powerful, peaceful, whole, spiritual, creative, dynamic, adventurous, challenging, pioneering. There are all types of words you can choose that come from a really solid base. So first, choose 5 words to define you that you are willing to stand up and say, that is entirely who I am. You see, when you do these things, let's take a look at the iCoach model for a moment. During iCoach, we talked about the importance of getting your mindset right, applying all of the lessons from ICANN, and really thinking about how do you become a great coach. You'll remember taking the lessons I've already refreshed this morning, or this afternoon in this case, that getting yourself ready first is a critical ingredient in the process of getting ready to be a great leader. It's entirely the same when it comes to coaching. You see, this means putting your focus on other people. For many of us, this goes against what we're normally used to doing. In order to get the most out of coaching, you have to put the coachee first. It's also vital that you get your ingredients right, which means you get your mindset ready because you have to go first. In fact, as you read this quote, I'd actually like to say it slightly stronger. If you're not ready and you're going into coaching, there is a real risk that the coaching will simply be pointless. If you don't believe that the other person can make the change, it's not coaching that's required. It's a different style of conversation. A conversation that's a bit more candid, a bit more straight talking, and really tells the person where they're actually at, will yield far more results than doing a coaching where you don't believe in their potential. Remember, when it comes to your mindset and coaching, it's the change that you make that gets you to go first. I mean, here's a question I have for you. Who do you want to be? In fact, what version of yourself do you want to be? How close are you to being that person? Have you taken the time to map out and identify what are the habits and behaviors, what are the thoughts and beliefs it's going to require for you to become that person? You see, in order to build success habits in your life, you need to know and be able to answer some critical questions. Habits are formed once we've decided on who we want to be. Once you're clear on that picture, once you're clear on that choice, it guides you much better. So if you're in circumstances where there's high anxiety or high workload, or you're genuinely in a busy state because there's so much to do, these success habits will navigate you and treat you with real guidance on how to get through, explore, and work out how to be better at what it is that you're doing. Understanding these habits will put you in good stead when you start looking at leadership. Now, let's pause for a moment. Already in this looking back module, if you're thinking like I am, there's so much that we've covered. This week's about reminding you and asking you to really think about the differences you can still make while we've got Firm Excellence still running for this week and, of course, for the next module. As we reflect on the periodic table of leadership success, I'd like to remind you about the 7 daily principles. I'd like to remind you about the role modeling you need to do in your life. And as we start to think about the small changes you can make, there are a couple of things I'd like to remind you about just over the next few minutes that are really simple in the world of leadership. They're so simple that if you do them daily and you really take time to perfect them, you'll be amazed at the difference they, of course, can actually make. One of the things that we've spoken about during the daily leadership success principles, all 7 of them, is the clear delineation of the numbers required from 1 to 7. This week, though, I'd like us to look at 2 key numbers. These numbers, we're going to use them as just simple memory pegs. First number we're going to talk about is number 6. The second number we're going to talk about is then number 7. Let's have a look at number 6 first. Find yourself a piece of notepaper, and I'd like you to write down, or in your thought binder, a really simple principle. It's called the Magic 6. I'd like to share with you 6 simple engagement tools and techniques, some of which you know by now, and others that are new, that are going to help you significantly in your business, with your customers, colleagues, and team. Those 6 things are as follows. Number 1, the format model. If you want to engage somebody in a meaningful conversation, use the format as a questioning template to help you connect and understand the person that you're talking with. Number 2, use your physiology. Now, by that I mean your body language, and I'm going to go back to physiology. Instead of looking at the other person's body language, change the view and use yours as a communication tool. Promote and match how they stand. Connect with them at a deeper level and use your arms and hands as a way of a meaningful communication. The next one, use the rapid repeat technique. When you're talking to somebody and they say something they're really interested in, pause, repeat the key words they said, and maybe say something positive at the end of it. For example, so tell me, why did you choose your last payroll supplier? Oh, because they were reliable. Fantastic. So even though they chose somebody else and they're joining you, you're eliciting a good feeling. Here's another one, match +1. Take the time to match with people, match +1, or you match their facial expression and you take them up a notch. You improve them. Here's the next one. Use the probing technique. The probing technique is simple. If you miss something in a conversation, just say. And above all else, do remember, the key and is number 6. Use positive language to affirm and listen like your life depends on it. Now let's look at the 7 daily principles. May I remind you one more time what those 7 daily principles are. Let's first go to the first one. Daily leadership principle number 1 is model the behavior today of what you expect of your people tomorrow. Understanding this is really challenging. Making sure you model it first is also critical. Number 2, a shared vision. As you look at your firm, have you taken the time to write out your story? Are the people around you clear on what it is? Do you share this when you meet people in a way to excite and inspire them? Number 3, remove obstacles. I mean, have you spent time working out the systems, the skills, the technology that's required in order to help your team move forward and, of course, move on? Removing obstacles is a critical step. Number 4, enable people to act. Have you already started to apply this by giving your teams the tools and strategies in order to be more effective in their role and, of course, in your business? Number 5, encourage the heart of your whole business. Are you using soul food? Are you doing the things that inspire people on a daily basis? Are you having moments of paying it forward to your clients? Are you sending notes of thank you and all the small things that make the difference? reinforcing the story? Number 6, are you recruiting, retaining, and developing the talent in your organization? Are you making sure that you've applied the lessons, of course, from last week, where we really looked at in-depth skills and techniques and the axioms of retaining your people? And of course, number 7, do you have a plan? Have you worked out how to tell that plan in different layers to the different styles of people in your organization? You see, understanding the daily principles, or the magic 6, they're tools in your toolbox, but it's not about applying or acquiring the knowledge. It's about applying them as a skill choice and using the techniques. We're referring back to the toolbox to remind you that firm excellence is a massive toolbox with loads of things that are only useful when you actually do them. In the same spirit of this, let's go back to the famous formula. The right thoughts with the right actions always get you the right results. The right thoughts without any action almost always lead to disappointment. The right actions without the right thoughts always deliver a result that's not quite what you expected. But when you put the right thinking, the best thinking, with the right actions, with the best actions, and you go after the ambitious outcome, which is the best result, you will always be amazed at the differences you can make just by preparing yourself with the right thoughts, the right actions, and of course, the right results. I'd also like to remind you about interacting with your people and using the SBE technique. Use it to prepare yourself as you're going into a meeting. Think about the situation you're going into. Really capture what it is that's going on. Write it down around the letter S. Use the S as a diagram. What's my situation? Why is it happening? How do I want to be effective in this? If I got this right, what else would happen? Use it as a guide to prepare for key things happening in your firm. Use the letter B in the same way. Ask yourself this question: what behavior is needed by me today? What behavior am I seeing? If you're talking to a person where there's a performance matter, ask them what behavior do they observe before you ask them or tell them about what you've witnessed. Using the S and the B as a preparation technique is a critical skill. The last part of the SBE technique, once you've looked at the situation and you've planned the behavior required, of course, is to then think about how do you prepare the effect? What effect do you want? What outcome do you want? A little bit like the TAR. What is the result? And what effect do you want to have? And this will help guide you on the effect, the theatre, the setup, the style, the questions, etc., on how you get ready for this interaction. SBE is a powerful tool to help prepare you for an interaction with one of your team or even a client. It gives you the preparation time to see yourself succeeding and see yourself doing well. Go back to your thought binder and just refer to some of the lessons around this, around getting the situation right and using the tools and all the different techniques able to do this technique well. You see, the toolkit's there to be used. Many of us have toolkits at home we just leave in the cupboard or in the garage or under the stairs. This toolkit is one that you can take with you everywhere, and you can call on it at times when you need it the most. Getting the best out of it is down to you, refining it over time and practicing exactly what's in the toolkit will make you a better leader and a better business person. But like many things, business is about growth. Have you calculated the actual results you want to have in the next 12 months, 2 years, 3 years, and so on in the future? Have you worked out the roadmap and the step change you need to make those results become reality? When you apply the right thinking and you take the right actions towards the results, it is a different outcome to just wondering, how do you grow organically? What is your growth ambition? And how do you make sure you take the right actions to create the growth that you desire. And in fact, what is the growth you desire? If you're a payroll company or a company with many, of course, accounts or clients, how do you grow your client base? Here's one of the secrets. One of the secrets is tried and tested for hundreds of years and way beyond our history. If you do it well through your people, you're almost guaranteed to get the right result. You see, to do things through your people is about being true to the story. Not just saying you do it through your people, it's about doing it through your people. Understanding that all of us cast a shadow when we step into the workplace. Understanding that we all have an impact on the people around us based on how we look, based on how we interact, based on the first opening question we have in the morning. When someone says, "How are you?" What's your answer? Are you a mood hoover? Are you negative in your first response? Do you say something, "Oh, I'm just so tired," or "Oh my goodness, I'm surviving"? Do you say that? Or as a leader, do you say, "I'm good"? As a coach and as a person, I am quite irritating. Many people close to me will tell you that. One of the reasons is, though, having experienced near-death experiences on 2 or 3 occasions in my lifetime, personally, I've learned to be so happy that I'm actually here today, because death is not a good option. Remember to use the power of your language in your first greeting of the day. Inspire your people with a smile. Create warmth in the office. If you have to address poor behavior, say it in a way that's normal. You don't have to get angry. You just talk with a bit of skill and a bit of normal tone. Match the person. Treat it like any other conversation. Just have it in a nice and tight way. Apply these learnings today. When you look around the office with your people later, apply them literally. I mean, here's the next question. Stretch food. What is the incremental development that's going to make you better than you are today in all of the areas of your firm and your practice? Do you know what those incrementals are? Have you started? Are you already eliminating the things that slow you down? Are you improving the technology or the systems to make you better? You know, many of us talk about how we are in day-to-day life. Stretch is one of the things that I look forward to getting stuck into. Like you, it's something I have to really wrestle with and really work hard at applying it into my habits and into my thoughts and into my belief strategies. Giving your full attention to stretch is a game changer in business, just like mind changes done over time are game changers in business. Stretch is about taking yourself and your people to the next level. When we're coaching workshops with stretch, we like to talk to people doing this every day in a daily brief. At the same time, we also ask them to make sure they do the powerful things too. A couple of weeks ago in the module, when we were looking at this next technique, you'll remember the impact of this wonderful technique called soul food. Soul food is a powerful people technique. Soul food is something that transforms people's beliefs. Remember though, soul food done well is done tastefully. Soul food is something that you should not just say, you should write it down and you should give it once you've done that. Handing it to the other person with 2 hands, letting them really stop and acknowledge that moment in time. And if you're still somebody who's a bit uncomfortable with soul food, I want to encourage you, just receive it and say thank you. Just receive it and match. You see, sometimes people will say thank you and then display all of the interference on their face or in their physiology in the normal way. You see, saying thank you is not just about that. Saying thank you is an external oral communication matched by a physical, which is your body language, displaying the same words. Think about that when you next do it, even if you feel uncomfortable on the inside. The difference is when you get it right and you say thank you as the receiver, the other person also gets the value from the moment of them choosing to do the right thing. I want to remind you of one last thing. All of your techniques only work as if by some kind of magic. They only work literally as if by some kind of magic when you apply the critical ingredient of anything that you've learned within the Firm Excellence program. And that's this. Know the things that you're going to apply every single day. That's right. They work as if by magic, and it is never magic when you apply them every day in your firm and, of course, in your life. As we've looked back over these last modules and some of the immense content we've gone through together, I hope you'll agree. There's a lot of things that we've shared, talked about, and done. We're now approaching the grand finale of Firm Excellence. And I'm really excited about how we're going to do the next part of the show. As you think back one more time about the content I've reviewed with you today, I'm sure as you stop and watch this video and you watch it back on the firmexcellencecourse.com and you play this, which will be uploaded by close of play UK time today, and you go back over this, I'm sure there are many things you'll be able to pull out, dissect, recap, and apply across your business and your firm. The next module, though, we're going to change. It's over to you. When we get together next week, there's a couple of things that are changing. We're going to change the Zoom meeting number. We're going to ask you to remember your why factor. And we want you to come into the call next week, joining on a live call for the whole module. Now, on that call, we're going to ask you to prepare some things. This particular module is a new Zoom number. Here's the number for you. We will communicate this, of course, via the team over the next few days. But next week, you join in live on camera on this new Zoom number. We're going to ask you to report back from the Firm Excellence program answers to the following questions. Question number 1. What are your successes? I want you to think about the things you've been doing. Think about how they've been going. And what have you enjoyed some success with so far since we started this program? The first question is critical, as is the second. Applying stretch food is really important. What are the stretches that you are working on? Maybe some of the grittier things that is taking you a bit more time. What are they? How are you getting on? The final question is a bit different. The final question is, what are you still to do? So what are your successes? What are your stretches? What are you still to get started? Often we can think about all of the A's, all of the C's, and all of the T's, all of the things you've come up with, and we can often think, my goodness, there's such a big list. So what are those things you haven't started yet? So successes, stretches, things to start. I'd also like you to tell me, as one last thing, how you have found Firm Excellence as a summary. Has it felt to you? What have you learned? You see, as we work our way through Firm Excellence and we come to completion, we will all have the opportunity to still learn from everybody else's example. So when you tell me something that you've done, I'm able to learn and reinforce my own belief systems about what is innately possible. Then at the end of the course, just like this week and in a moment, we're going to open up the Q&A. So you can ask each other, you can ask us, and we can really understand and deep dive into all.
So welcome to the Q&A session for this week. Hopefully you've all enjoyed taking a real look at all of the marvelous content that we've shared with you in Firm Excellence so far. Really important that you do remember, as was prescribed on the video a second ago, the importance of the new Zoom number we're going to use next week. I'm really excited to not only share something with you extra in the call next week, I'm looking forward to learning from some of the things that you've done, some of the steps that you've taken, and what the difference that has been in your business and, of course, in your firm. So let's open up the Q&A session and let's see if there's any questions that are being asked out there this afternoon and this morning live on the call. So does anybody out there have any questions they'd like to ask as we've gone through the recap this week and looked at some of that content-rich stuff all over again? Now, just while we're waiting to see if any questions are, of course, listed, I'd also like to just make a few more points in the meantime. It's really important that as part of Firm Excellence, you maximize the learning opportunities that you've had and really find the things that are going to help you build your firm. Whether that's stuff that's on your vision, whether that's stuff that's on your growth strategies, whether that's on your coaching ability, communication skills that you have, the mindset that you're building, all the daily routines and habits that are part of what you're becoming and what you've been. Any one of those things, and of course they can be indeed much, much more. I really want you to think about all the different things you've done, how you've done them, and of course what you're still working on. The other thing about this week in preparation for next week, when you come back to the table and talk about the things you've been doing, those successes and those stretches and those things you're still to start, if there's any more clarification or assistance you need while we're live together as a group on Firm Excellence on the new number, it's a great opportunity to explore and express other questions, other ideas from the people who are taking part, of course, in that as well. So please do have the freedom to do that. Again, while we're just waiting for any Q&As, this is going to be available so that this will be up on the cloud later on this afternoon here in a couple of hours' time. So by midday or mid-afternoon US time. So we'll have this up and running for you. So if you want to watch this again and take a further recap and see that hand-on video all over again, then it's going to be there for you to just recap and say, yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I'm going to work on that. It's designed to support you as you answer some of those questions next week. So just as we bring this to a gradual close, just checking our questions. Again, thank you to Sean, Rebecca, Laurie, Kevin, Jessica, and James who are with us today. Hopefully you found this super informative with lots to think about and do. I'm going to now cease recording. This has been Firm Excellence Module 11, the deep dive back into what we've done. Thank you for being part of this.